What's up? Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Another special episode of the Mindset Monday series with my co-host, Justin Thorstad. Okay, I'm That's a Mexican song. You wouldn't understand.
Yeah, I don't catch the reference.
Yeah, everybody who speaks Spanish understood what I just said, but we'll just leave it at that.
I'm sure it was a good thing.
Yeah, it's a really good. Yeah.
He's like, sure, yeah, we'll go with that.
It's good, I guess.
No, Gio's laughing, so that's.
Yeah, Google it, bro. All right,
So, I don't remember what the hell you said.
So let's talk about one of the things that's it's an ever going thing. Call it an issue, call it a situation, call it whatever you want to call it, right? But it's change. Every single moment of our lives, we're being presented with a degree of change in everything that we do. From the moment we wake up to the time we go to bed, we sleep, wake up the next morning, do it all over again, right? You said it very eloquently, which is change is the only constant in life. Now, the big question is, as entrepreneurs, that can be, sometimes it can be big change. Sure. Right?
Yeah.
Something that disrupts the way that we live.
Yep.
Disturbs, just kind of like the flow of life, if you want to,
Yeah, your entire industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can be, things that hit you at an, industry level, things that hit you at a, mindset level, things that, individual level. It's incredible. But I think the some of the frameworks, I guess, to deal with change, they still remain, the same, right? Like, so let's walk through that. I want to, kind of, break some scenarios and just kind of put some stuff on the table and how change has impacted us in the past, and then what we've done to get over it.
Yeah, certainly. First, I want to tee it up a little bit for people about change. It's like, first, you just got to take a look at, like, what's your relationship to change, right? Yeah. And I'll say this. I love change. In fact, I oftentimes create it consciously or unconsciously to stir things up, just to be stimulated, like take the snow globe, and most people want the snow to just be on the ground. And I like to just shake that thing up and toss things around a bit, because now when you got a different environment, it causes you to be creative, resourceful. And I mean, that's where you're really the most alive and successful as an entrepreneur. So it's like, okay, so do I love change and I embrace it, or am I resistant to it? Okay, so if something changes externally, like, do you have control over that? No. It happened without your permission or consent. Nobody asked you, and nobody cares, right? So it's like, why be in resistance to the way things used to be this way and now they're different? It's like, great. That means there's new opportunities, new connections, new relationships. It's a beautiful process. And so being resistant to it is just basically saying, I like things the way they are, and I don't want it to change, because then I don't know what to plan or predict for. So wait, you're saying then your success is only because of the conditions, or did you create the success? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Right? And so, for example, I brought it up because in the real estate industry, those two large class action lawsuits about how they might do away with buyer's agent compensation.
Yeah.
And, I'm really excited about that. I hope it actually happens.
Say that in English.
So basically, at least in Arizona, for example, when an agent lists a property for sale, they negotiate their commission with the seller, let's say 6%, for example. And what the listing agent does is offer a portion of that 6% to an agent that brings the buyer. So there's a cooperation, a co-broke, cooperating broker. And so, typically, let's just say 3% on the listing side, 3% on the buyer side. Well, what these lawsuits are saying is that the seller shouldn't have to pay for the buyer's agent. Like, I'm paying someone to fight against me, right?
Right.
And I understand that. But again, they didn't have a problem with that situation when they bought the house with their agent that they didn't pay. Yeah. But anyways, so we'll get into the weeds on that. But basically, that is going to disturb our market significantly, and I think in a beautiful way, because a lot of people won't know how to adapt to change because they don't embrace it. They don't know how to handle their internal state with it. And so they'll lose their mind and leave the industry, which is fantastic because we're saturated. So with agents, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it, because that means we get to change our strategy, our playbook, and how we're going to approach things, how we articulate our value, what is our value now, and so on and so forth. I think it's fantastic.
The whole concept of adapting and overcoming, right? I mean, I think it just presents an opportunity every time change hits. And again, I was mentioning earlier, right? Sometimes change happens at a micro level. You know, where I don't know, something throws you off your game for that day. And then you have a new challenge, you have a new thing. Sometimes it happens at a macro level where it's going to disrupt entire industries. What's pretty interesting to it, sometimes that I feel like sometimes we go blind to the opportunity that change can bring.
Yeah.
Look at old established industries, construction. You know, for example, homes have been built the same way for how long?
Yeah, a long time.
You know, you don't think that there's more feasible and more cost-effective ways, raw materials and stuff like that. We can put together to build homes. However,
sustainable, efficient, all that.
Yeah, the bulk of the construction world remains the same. If you look at law, for example, a lot of the law practices are still in the same realm. Real estate is another one of those, right?
Oh yeah.
So a lot of times, I think we can be almost blind to change because it's just the way things have always been done, right? So it's not always
cultural norm.
Yeah, exactly. It's not always an imposed thing. Sometimes it's an opportunity waiting to happen, and we're just blind to it because we're not, I mean, it's how it's supposed to be. Why? Because it's been done like that for the last 100 years.
Don't mess with it.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily that there's no better ways of doing stuff or improving upon what's already existent. It's just that we can be blind to it.
Which is short-sighted.
Yeah.
Like it's just a lower level of awareness.
So the question, I think the question remains, right? Like, as an entrepreneur, what is your relationship with change?
Yeah.
What is, how do you sit with the idea of doing different things and being this dynamic individual as opposed to somebody who's just ingrained on the stagnation of the stuff that they do on a daily?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, kind of a trick question for me, if that was rhetorical or directed towards me. But because, again, man, I like change. And if no change is happening in my reality, like it's not forced, then I'll go create it. Because think about it. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Do you know what I'm saying? Like people get stale, stagnant, and decay if nothing changes. Yeah. Like for something to come in and disrupt your conditions, circumstances, environment, whatever it is, like the landscape has changed. Like if that doesn't happen, then nothing's going to change. Like it's going to stay the same. And if that's the case, that sounds pretty damn boring to me. Yeah. So I like change because it forces you, again, to be creative, resourceful, make connections, educate yourself. Like all of that is stimulating for your mind and body.
Yeah.
Like it's exciting. And again, new opportunities arise for those that see change coming. And then they're able to ride that wave of the change, while others that are resistance to the change, and it shouldn't be, this is happening to me, like the very victim mentality. Like when that wave comes.
Which we see it all the time.
Daily.
All the time.
Daily, yeah. That wave is going to crash those people. You know what I mean? It's like, so you can either, like a surfer, you can ride the wave or be crushed by it. Like it's just a choice.
I think change has a lot of personas, right? Like it can be an opportunity waiting to happen. It can be something that it might be a challenge, a situation that you need to overcome. That's another thing, right? But there's multiple facets to it. I mean, we have, of course, like right now we're talking about being blind to it. That's one. What about the time factor? What about over changing things when they're not ready to be changed yet?
Says who?
I see. Yeah. Well, I see that happening too as well. Like for example. Things are this is, and I'm putting myself in those shoes and thinking about it. Mm-hmm. All right. Sometimes I'll get down on something and I'll do it. I'll dial it in. I don't know. Systems and processes. It's not kind of my thing. It's my thing.
Yeah.
So I'll get something dialed in, right, and it's working good and it's humming, and I'm almost like looking for an excuse to come in and change the damn thing when it's working perfectly fine. Like
not
nothing's
almost
broken.
like you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, how can I come in and improve it, or how can I do whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day is like sometimes it's if I feel like there's not a lot of not a lot of problems arising, I'll almost take it as a self-sabotage thing to come in and then see how I can work on something that's already working.
Can
That's one thing. Yeah. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds. Let me finish this train of thought. So that's one, right? So sometimes, I mean, I've in the past, and when I sit with these kind of questions, I think about situations where I instigated change when, all I had to do was really just put attention to somewhere else. Like maybe that one particular thing didn't need change. I just needed to grow into a different area, right?
Possibly.
So I mean, I think there's different contexts to it, right? It's not this this black and white thing that we can pinpoint. Okay, this is when change needs to happen. Sometimes it can be subjective.
100%, right? So, I mean, just to play devil's advocate on what you just said, is like, if you think about it, if something is working, does that mean that it's working at the highest and best? Maybe to our level of awareness of it. But what you're saying is like, hey, but I come in and it's already working and producing good results. And I come in and break it. And that's the key, so that I can evolve it. Because could it be better? Always. Yeah. So now I would ask the question of, what has you placing your attention on breaking what's working so that you can evolve it? If your time, energy, attention would be better utilized focusing on something else. And so are you fixing the thing as a form of like hesitation from moving forward on this other project and like to deflect against it because it's uncomfortable or whatever? And so I'm going to go work on this to feel productive. And if the answer is no, that's not it at all. That's not my intent. My intent is simply, I just want to see what it could produce if I were to break this model and create a new one to evolve myself and the process to produce bigger, better results.
Yeah, I got the perfect answer for that, and the answer is the big think is not big enough. Okay. And I speak, for my in my case, my situation. Like a lot of times when I've done that is because I'm too focused on this thing as opposed to thinking outside of the box. And then, okay, how can I expand or how can I do more? I feel like I want to do more, yet I keep going back to that same fucking little box. And then trying to, rework the Legos in that box when what I could be doing is, expanding, thinking bigger, really, reaching out to uncomfortable areas, right?
Uncharted territory.
Yeah, uncharted territory and growing from that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, instigating a degree of change that's within my comfortable space, as opposed to changing my perspective into this big area where I can do more stuff and have a bigger impact. That's one thing the reason I was able to fire it back out, I'm not pulling it out of thin air, is because I've sat with that question for okay, why am I spending so much time and energy in certain things that I feel like I want to tweak and retweak and readjust and get super micro, when at the end of the day the bottom line result of that particular thing doesn't, it moves the needle, but it's not going to be a game changer, right? Why not sit back and then, why am I not naturally drawn to spend more time and effort in bigger things? And the think wasn't big enough. Like that to me, that was it.
Yeah.
Now I step back and I look at the big picture and it's like, holy shit. There's so many different things at play that I wasn't even recognizing that were out there.
The more time you sit with a thing, the more aware of yourself with it and its potential you become. Yeah. And so now you can think bigger. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think so many people are, and I'm not saying you, and by the way, I really respect the hell out of you for being authentic with all of that. You know what I mean? Because most people only want to portray like how great they are. And it's like, no, we give people.
Don't get me wrong. I'm awesome. But
you see what I have to put up with?
I tell myself that every morning.
No, but you see what I'm saying? Like the level of authenticity of like, no, here's where I am. This is how I operate. And I think that's why people come back to view us, because it's like as you said in the title, it's the real sort of raw. So thank you for that.
It's a reality of life.
Is.
Like, it doesn't matter how great you see somebody operating. Like, there's always internal conversations that happen.
Totally.
So I think it's important to put light on that stuff.
And if it's a business, a product, a service, whatever the case is, like there is a life cycle to it, right? There's from startup, infancy, birth, infancy, and then adolescence, and adulthood, and then elderly.
Yeah.
And it's like if you don't at some point before the elderly phase ends, death, right? If you don't evolve that through innovation, like it's gonna die. And so sitting with a thing and thinking bigger, and how do I think outside the box? It's simple.
Yeah.
There's no fucking box other than the self-imposed limitations you place on it.
There is no spoon.
Yeah. So if there's no box, that means I can go outside of my comfort zone the extent of boundaries I placed on myself, and ponder the question, because it's only then can you hear the answer, what's on the other side of that? And like, if I believe, it's how I operate, if you're not stepping into the unknown, the uncharted territory where like adventure is, then why do you expect anything to be drastically different for the better?
Right, you're not instigating change, so your relationship with change has to be open, and right out of the gate. Why? Because it's gonna happen anyways.
It's going to happen anyway. So why are you resisting reality? Reality's unfolding. It doesn't care about how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And so you can work with it to extract the opportunities and the gifts and the learning and the stimulation, or you can be in resistance and suffer, but that's optional.
Yeah. 100%. I wanna throw a side note out there. You were talking about feeling, the expansion when there is no box, right? Mm-hmm. There's one particular meditation that gets me in that space when I go through it, and it's a 20-minute meditation by Dr. Joe Dispenza, morning meditation. I think you turned me on to it like years ago. Years ago. I think you were the person who I heard it from. And I started doing that, but you start with this 6 inches between your ears, right? Like you start in that mental space, you're closing your eyes, you're going through this process, and that starts expanding between you and the room, and that starts expanding between you and the building, and then it just, it has a very interesting effect that makes you feel the expansion until you get to this universal level. And I feel like that's the context that we should take change in. It evolves, it grows, and you start. It starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but you start to grow along with it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of intention behind his meditation with that too.
Yeah.
Because what happens is our mind wants to fixate on a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's called the morning meditation by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
It's fantastic, and he's got an evening one, which is so great, and it's complementary.
Yeah.
So when we focus on a thing, we start operating on higher beta brainwaves. So it's incoherent, it's reactive, and we're just in a higher stress state throughout our day. And so when you can sit down and you can focus on a thing, yet also diffuse your awareness to broaden it out, that actually relaxes the mind.
Yeah.
And so if you can do both at the same time in a meditation, and then you set an intention of, okay, who do I desire to be today? How do I want to think? How do I want to feel? Who do I not want to be today? That part of me yesterday that didn't work out so great, where I fell from grace. I want to remind myself of who I don't want to be as well, because then that way my conscious mind, my analytical mind can catch that throughout my day, so I don't go unconscious. I don't go asleep to myself and just repeat and be predictable. So it's fantastic. And then at the end of the day, the evening meditation, you can kind of take inventory of how did I do? What am I going to improve on tomorrow? And then if you do that right before bed, you get to marinate on it for however long you sleep, and you wake up that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, when it comes to that type of process, I mean, I think honesty and awareness is at the forefront of the entire thing, right?
Nothing changes until you have that.
So how do we deal with that? Okay, so I mean, we're getting hit by change. I mean, be it a relationship, be it I don't know, you're switching jobs. Your circle of influence is different.
Yeah.
What's your process? And I'll break down my process.
Sure. I think first and foremost, that's a great question, because I haven't really thought about it too much, but the answer comes. It's first and foremost having the awareness and understanding and honesty with self of like, okay, wait a minute. If I am working with a higher power, whatever you subscribe to, God, the Tao, the universe, spirit, whatever it is, like you got to just answer one question, and Einstein posed it. Like, do I live in a friendly universe or a hostile universe? And if it's friendly, that means then source that I'm a part of, unique expression of that divine, is a loving place. So if something's changing externally and it completely disrupts my entire life, my business, my relation, everything has changed now. Okay, now I got to take a look at that. This is the awareness piece. This can only be happening for my benefit. My job is to remain present, objective, and see it for what it is, because only then can I see through non-biased lens what that opportunity is. It's a gift. It's disguised, and it might look like shit, but if you just stay with it long enough. Now, in order to sit in that seat of consciousness, the objective observer, the witness of the situation, because if we have judgment on it, that's a biased lens. and it's coming from past trauma and BS, and it's distorting what we're perceiving. So if you can stay in a higher state of vibration, priming your state, reminding yourself throughout the day, meditating with your eyes open, so to speak, you'll remain present, connected, conscious, and aware of what's happening so that you can see that gift sooner rather than later. Because when change happens and we're resistant, are we like part of the solution or do we add to the problem?
Yeah.
Typically, people add to the problem because of resistance, and what you resist persists. So reminding yourself that I assign meaning and significance to everything. Therefore, I'm going to choose that a higher power that I'm working with is only creating change, reality is unfolding, for my benefit. My only job is to stay objective so that I can view that, learn from it, grow, and evolve myself, my consciousness. And when I grow me and I evolve me, like that increases the tide, which raises all boats. So everything you do contributes. The question is, what am I contributing? Am I helping the collective consciousness elevate, or am I taking from it in my resistance and my victimness?
Yeah. I think we have a similar approach to it. I think change used to really, really rock me. Especially when I started in building my first business. I would think things would pan out this way, and then next thing you know is like there's, I don't know, a banana peel. They call them banana peels now, but there's a banana peel on the floor, and I slip and slide on it, and then everything's just turned upside down. Right?
Yeah, you're pissed off.
Yeah, exactly. And that would it's almost like hitting yourself on the pinky toe in the morning, and then just kind of throwing your entire day away because of that. But it did have that effect. I mean, it was. I wasn't one. I wasn't segmenting. I wasn't really. I was like melting everything around me, my personal life, my relationships, into that one issue, right? So that one issue, whatever that thing was, if it was an issue, if it was something that wasn't in the books and it wasn't good. When it was good, I mean, great. I mean, I'll take that kind of change all day long.
Yeah,
right?
and all the credit for it too.
Yeah, all the credit for it, and then it's yes.
Yeah.
But when it wasn't, and it was something that rocked my boat, it was like, oh my God, like everything would be rocked, right? Yeah. And I realized that I was giving away my personal power to just the stupidest of situations and circumstances. I was giving away my energy, my positive attitude, my vibes, right? If something would come across that wasn't in the books, it would just throw me off. And it would rock me, and that
angry?
would ripple effect. Yeah. And it wouldn't start as me getting angry.
No.
I would just like be upset, but it would be a buzzkill. You know what I mean? So buzzkill, and then that buzzkill would leak into, I don't know, a meeting. It would leak into a customer call. It would whatever. I was trying to negotiate it, and I was walking into things like with a pessimistic mindset as opposed to like, okay, how can we make some good stuff happen, right? So it would just like. The entire demeanor of my behavior through the day would like absolutely just shift with that change. And it wasn't even issues. It was just change. That's the crazy thing. It wasn't all like always problems. I was so.
Doesn't matter what it was.
Yeah, I was so attached to lining things up, or okay, and I would get blindsided by something, which happens all the time, anyways. And then I would let that take over, right? So to me, it was giving away my personal power. And then not taking responsibility for not just the actions, but my emotions behind them.
Well, yeah, the emotional regulation, right? And so I think more information at times can be supportive to have awareness. And so what I mean by that is this, because you're not the only one. I used to identify and operate that way for forever until I understood one thing. First of all, change is the only constant. But most importantly, like if I'm angry, and everybody else, when you're angry, like it's coming from one of two things, or both. One, sadness. I'm sad about this. It shouldn't be this way. I'm losing, whatever it is. Or fear. So fearful that, your honey's going to take their love away, and connection. Or you're fearful that the change of the market is going to wipe out your business, and then who am I? And all these types of things, right? And you can be sad about that. That oscillates if it goes unchecked and turns into anger. And so anger is really a mask of something that's deeper rooted. And so sadness or fear. And if we take a look at sadness or fear, both of those come from scarcity. And scarcity is rooted in fear, false evidence appearing real. Like it's not abundant.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's wrong or bad to be angry or sad or fearful. I'm just saying that's just the root cause. And if we can go there and reframe our relationship to it, that opens up a new door and sets up a new lens in which we're viewing our reality so that we can see opportunities. Because again, if change doesn't happen, then nothing's really going to change. And so how do you evolve? How do you grow? How are you stimulated? Do you know what I mean? Like, how are you forward moving if nothing changes?
Yeah.
So,
well, the thing is that everything's changing all the time. Like, it doesn't matter what whether we intend for it or not. I mean, it's just everything is moving. Everything is changing. There's so many things that have, the ripple effects and that make it over to us that we can't, you're not going to be able to help it. If you're in a really, really good space, I guarantee you that space is going to change. It might get better. It might get it's going to evolve. Everything evolves, right? So wrapping our head around that is very important. Getting comfortable with it. Now, I mean, I really kind of, sat well with the idea of stepping up or stepping out. Something hits me. I don't understand it. It wasn't in the books. It wasn't, whatever. Before I get fired up, before I throw, the baby along with the bathtub water. How do you say it?
Yeah, throw the
baby with the bathtub water.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Anyways, I don't throw babies out.
Not out of bathtubs, anyways.
Yes. So it's before I do that, like, okay, I realize, okay, what space am I standing in? Do I want to step up or do I want to step out, right? If I see myself saying step out more than step up to whatever lane I'm in, bro, I'm in the wrong fucking lane.
True.
So I mean, it really comes down to that sense of responsibility. Change is a responsibility. How we react to change is a responsibility. How we approach change is our responsibility.
Yeah.
How we take action to that change
is
a responsibility.
100%. And responsibility, people are like, well, that's not my responsibility. I'm not to blame for it. It's like, no, that's not what we mean by responsibility. Responsibility is just simply your ability to respond.
Yeah.
Ability to respond. Like, that is under your control, and it is up to you, and you get to decide that. Yeah. It doesn't mean that, like, hey, we don't get triggered or activated when something changes,
we're
right?
Feel it, right?
Yeah,
but, I mean, you got to have that emotional IQ that.
But are you bringing gas to the fire or are you bringing water? You know what I mean? Are you part of the solution or just adding to the problem? Yeah. And that comes down to checking in.
If it's a grease fire, don't bring water. I'm a firefighter, so I got to put that out there. So. But
thank you for that.
I see what you're saying.
Audience, now you just learned not to bring water to a grease fire. But, maybe it was a dumpster fire.
Yeah, that's the case.
Yeah. It comes down to your ability to regulate your own emotions. To go, wait a minute, I'm triggered right now. Yeah. Awareness, right? Okay. I'm going to contribute something. So do I want to contribute to the solution or contribute more towards the problem? Well, let me check myself first. Let me take a deep breath, get centered, present, objective, and so I can see the situation for what it truly is. Yeah. And then I'll decide how to respond.
Yeah. I mean, it may sound easier said than done, right? But awareness has got to be the first thing. We always talk about awareness. It's interesting how it always, comes out to the front end of the line.
Well, it all starts there.
It all starts there, right? So awareness of what's going on. Realize, ask yourself, is it even when I'm doing operating flows and just, developing systems and processes, like you have very basic questions that kind of guide your actions and break away into different, triggers, right?
So logically.
It's the same thing. So have awareness for what's going on. What type of change? This is good change, bad change. The second question for me has always been like, is this in alignment with me? Is this in alignment with, where I want to be, what I want to do? Is this in my lane?
So glad you said that.
And then the third one is really taking, committing to taking the action of either rolling with it or stopping the change or moving out. It's what's going to be your decision based on that.
I like that because the truth of the matter is, and people have a hard time wrapping their head around this, so they don't agree, but that doesn't make it not true. And it's this simple truth. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are.
Yeah.
And I've had so many experiences of this, I won't get into that story, but the bottom line is, we have a bundle of beliefs, stories, emotions that have been rehearsed for how long? Several decades. And it sets up, again, that biased lens in which we interpret information. we're only bringing in about 128 bits out of 2 billion every second. And so what 128 bits do you think you're bringing in? The ones that you decided like are how reality should be, or what it is, or how I belong, or worthy, deserving, enough. All these different types of factors go into this vetting process of allowing in information. And so we're seeing that information, how we are. So you said number 2 was, can you repeat it for me? Like your second step? So awareness, and then?
Whether or not it's in alignment with
Bingo.
With me, the person who I would, my lane, right?
And so is that something you feel into or think about, or both?
Sometimes I get pragmatic depending on what that change is.
Okay.
But a lot of times, man, it's just intuition. It's like, this just doesn't feel right. If you have a moral or ethical change, happening, I don't know. You sometimes with in transactions, right? We're dealing with certain stuff, and it's delicate information or whatever, and then you'll get hit with a moral dilemma. I was like, shit, you can't put a number on that kind of stuff.
No, yeah.
Like, but yet who you are at heart, right?
Your beingness.
Yeah, you understand your beingness. Does it align with that?
Well,
it doesn't have to be fucking rocket science.
No, it's not. And that's what's so beautiful about what you just said. It's like, it's intuition. Like, does this feel right? Does it align? Does it resonate vibrationally? Is this in alignment with me? And the answer is no. Okay, I'm good letting it go.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, the reason they're resistant to change is because they're seeing the problem as they are, not for what it is, and therefore the opportunities. And that means they're in their thinking mind and not feeling into it to see if there's alignment.
Well, I mean, by default, change causes indecision.
Yeah, but indecision is a decision. I'm deciding to not decide.
Well, yeah, I mean, take it. How many decades did it take you to understand that part?
3.
Yeah, exactly my
Plus.
point, right? So it's, I mean, through growth, you get to a point where that kind of stuff starts to click. But when it doesn't, it's at the beginning, and something's just changing. I mean, I remember like when I was starting off, and I wasn't in the personal growth journey yet, and I don't know what the fuck I was doing in any sense of the word.
Yeah.
Any notion of change would just like, man, what do I do? And I would stand and I would be at a standstill on, just trying to decide and see if, overthinking and overanalyzing and doing, creating this analysis paralysis that caused stagnation and everything. And then stagnation leads into more stagnation because there's no action taking place. And what happens next thing you know, you're in a hole. And then that one little thing that changed whatever route you were on costs, the whole. I mean, it definitely has ripple effects.
Yeah, I used to get really pissed off when change happened because I was like, I just finally arrived and you're changing the game, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So, yeah.
No, I mean, it's the same question that I have for myself. So, no, I get it.
So, yeah, I mean, you could either accept it or resist it, but one is an intelligent choice. The other one's futile anyways. So choose wisely.
It's coming at you anyways.
Yeah.
Like it's
happening whether you want it or not.
It's like old age. It's coming at you.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So yeah, with that being said, man, I mean, I think it's not such a superficial topic. I think it's a deeper topic than we give it credit for. On a regular basis. It happens every single day. It happens with a single relationship that a new relationship that you make today may be a catalyst for change, right? I mean, I can pinpoint, some, days in my life where I met somebody that, oh, holy shit, my entire perspective changed. A conversation happened and it shifted things. We have that on the good side, on the bad side. We have it, creating, wealth, and we have created bankruptcies. Like change is just it's a constant of life. It's always going to be there, right? But it's up to us to decide on how, we direct our attitude towards it.
Yeah, totally. Because, the other part of the awareness is, am I the one that just created that change inadvertently and unknowing, through the process? Like change isn't always happening out there at random. Like sometimes we have a hand in this.
And understand that portion, that part, what caused the change is irrelevant. It's like, honestly, right? It's fucking irrelevant. Yeah. What caused the change? It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The change already happened. Like the thing is, what am I going to do about it? So that's something to think about.
Yeah, right? Totally. Yeah, we could go on for hours just on this one topic because it's so big. It's deep.
Yeah. So with that being said, Justin, where can somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, YouTube, social media, JustinThorstad.com, and myself, 602-348-8534.
Bam! There you guys have it. And you can find me on social media at Rafael Cortez CEO. Pretty active on Instagram. Do us a favor if you like the conversations that we have here and sit down and just pour out into you guys. Spread them, right? Spread the love. Send them to somebody who you think might benefit from listening to our Mindset Monday episodes. CEO Pulse Podcast. Again, catch it on iTunes. Subscribe on YouTube. Like, share. It's a two-way street. We always say that it's a two-way conversation. Yeah. So if you have questions, drop them in the comments, and let's hack away. I mean, this is pretty interactive type of stuff. You can probably tell at this point that we're not too refined. We're kind of rough around the edges, and that's how we like it. So
it's real.
So yeah, it's real. That's the point. All
yep.
Right. With that being said, fam, love you all. Stay focused. You got this. Let's go.